special guest with us today, Judge Jeanine Pirro. Judge Jeanine, probably most well known for her show on the Fox News channel, Justice with Judge Jeanine, is here with us in Dayton, Ohio today. Judge Jeanine is a former prosecutor, a New York Times best-selling author, an Emmy Award winner, and a fierce advocate for what she believes in. We know Judge Jeanine most because she is part of our family. She's a self-made woman. She's a loving mother, a loving daughter, and we are blessed that she has made time to be with us here today. Judge Jeanine, welcome. Hello, Judge Jeanine. Welcome to the Midwest.
It's great to be here. I love the Midwest. You know, I was in Chicago. Is Chicago considered the Midwest?
Chicago is considered the Midwest.
All right. Well, I had a syndicated show, and I would love coming to Chicago. I mean, it was beautiful. The people are nice. I mean, it was like New York City, but cleaner, and the people are nicer. But don't tell them that in New York City.
The people in the Midwest are nice people. Yes, and I know in travels up to New York City, people in New York always thought we were up to something because we were smiling, and we were just nice. We were just happy people.
Sad, isn't it?
Well, it's just the way it is. So you're here at a very interesting time in America right now. But what I'm interested in talking to you about is, you know, you have been successful at everything you've done. You're a self-made person from upstate New York. Mm-hmm. You're the daughter of immigrants. I want to know what was it about your background and upbringing that led to your success?
Well, you know, I must give credit to my parents, as I'm sure you do. We're all products of our environment as well as, you know, our genes. And my dad was from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and my mother, although she was born in Cortland, she was sent to Lebanon where she was raised. And so I have that culture inbred in me as well. It's all about, for me, it was all about family, God, country, and education. And I think that you hear that from most immigrant countries, or immigrants, I should say. For me, it was trying to be the best I could be and recognizing that there weren't any limits. So I'm no spring chicken. And I decided early on that I wanted to be a lawyer because I used to watch Perry Mason, and all the time, you know, they always had the wrong guy, and it always upset me that they had the wrong guy. But I never went into defense work. I ended up going into prosecution work, and then I always wondered how Hamilton Berger got reelected. You know, the guy was always wrong whenever he indicted someone, but that's besides the point. I think it's a strong family background. I think it's a background that America provides all of us, and that is the ability, no matter who you are, what you look like, or for me, what your sex was at the time, to be able to succeed. And hard work is, you know, it gives you the opportunity to level the playing field. And as long as we have the equal opportunity, then we're in a position to get to the goals that we want.
Well, you've broken a lot of barriers. Mm-hmm. And in the current environment we're in, it seems like there's a victim culture. Mm-hmm. And you fit into several potential categories that would qualify you to be an official victim. What do you say to people in this day and age that believe that the walls are there and there are barriers to the success that you've achieved?
Well, you know, and I appreciate you recognizing the small hurdles that I've been able to overcome. But I mean, there's so much more that can be done. But I don't believe in victimhood. People don't know today what real victimhood is. I do. I prosecuted crime for 30 years, 3 decades, as a prosecutor, and then as an elected district attorney, and even as a judge in the county courts. That's what real victimhood is. And all this nonsense about people saying, you know, I didn't have the equality of opportunity. They're not looking for the equality of opportunity. What they're looking for is the equality of the win, that they should win because of who they are. I don't buy that, neither does anyone else. I think that the sooner people get over the victimhood nonsense, and even criminals used it a lot. I mean, criminals used to say, oh, I come from a poor family and I was abused as a child. I don't give a damn if you were abused as a child. I feel bad for you, but we're here because you abused someone else. And right there is where you break the connection between your background and what you do in your future to someone else. There is no excuse. There is no justification for that. that. And that's where my intolerance comes from, people who, we hear it a lot with Black Lives Matter, the organization, which is a Marxist, fascist organization that truly doesn't even believe in the nuclear family. I mean, their focus is, we want equality. And they march down the streets and they say, my family used to live in this neighborhood. You should get out of this neighborhood. Or they trespass, or they threaten. And when people try to protect themselves with guns, the people who protect themselves using the Second Amendment as a backdrop are then arrested. Everything is upside down in America today. And the victimhood nonsense should be out in the garbage.
What would you tell the people in Middle America, from Ohio, and we all carry, if we live in this part of the country, somewhat of a chip on our shoulder that we're overlooked or we're considered a Rust Belt state, as we're watching all this play out in what appears to be the coastal cities in New York and Washington, D.C. and Southern California? What would you tell the people like us in the Midwest how we should view what's happening right now in America?
Well, it's a mixed bag. To an extent, JP, it's a blessing, because we've watched, cities and businesses burn, and I'm not to say that the Midwest has been exempt from that, but there is this comma on each side of the United States where somehow everyone feels that they have been wrong, that they deserve reparations, and it's almost as though you guys are not part of the discussion. You're not part of the equation. And as far as I'm concerned, you guys are the heartland. You are America. And I don't mean to disrespect people on the on the East or the West Coast, but what I'm telling you is that it is the heartland that has been able to make sure that we survive during the pandemic, whether, it's the truckers or the farmers or all the thing that's going on to help us survive in this country. You've got to make sure that you are focused on who you elect. And, the truth and honesty have meaning. They don't anymore on the East Coast and the West Coast.
Well, they definitely do here, and we know they do with you. So I'll switch gears a little. You have really had a diversified career. You're a very courageous person. You're not afraid to express your views, or you're afraid, yet you still express them. You have authored 7 books, 3 New York Times bestsellers. You've had an Emmy award-winning syndicated television program. How did you make the leap to diversify in such an amazing way?
Well, thank you. To me, it was all natural. I was talking to my sister last night, and she said to me, Jeanine, I remember asking you about 25 years ago, what would you do if you failed? And she said, you said, failure isn't anything that I even think about. And when she said that, it kind of brought back a lot of confidence that you start losing when you realize that the system that you invested in for 30 years of truth and justice and accountability and consequences and responsibility have been turned upside down. And now what I think is important is when you make a decision to leave one career, that you bring some of that career with you. And so I brought the issue of truth and light and justice to television. I mean, everybody thought I would be talking about my wheelhouse, which is crime and justice. I realized that there was more crime going on in Washington than there is in criminal courtrooms in the country. And then I just wrote about it in my books. They were all easy segues. But I think one thing that I need to mention is that I made the decision after 3 terms as district attorney to leave. I loved it. It was the best job in the world, but I knew it was time. It was a self-imposed term limit, so that the idea of conservatism, the idea of moving on, was in essence who I was. Power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. And not that I'm saying that was the case, but I didn't want to just skid through the next 20 years knowing that I could be reelected. And so you keep the fire going, and you keep moving, and you keep the message. The message has never changed. It's about the underdog, the person who never asked to be a victim. It's about the taxpayer who pays but gets nothing from it. It's about people learning what the truth is when I write my books. And so it's always the same message, but in a different medium.
So, Jeanine, you mentioned your sister. And again, I know you as a family person, as a cousin, a relative, as a
Yeah.
daughter,
We're cousins.
as a sister. Why don't you share something about yourself that the public doesn't know? They know you as a fiery, confident advocate for what you believe in. I know you. I know a different side of you. What would you be willing to share to people listening that they don't know about you?
You just kind of assume that people know you, and then you realize that, when people say, man, she's some tough woman, or Hannity will say to me, man, I never want to get on your bad side. And I say, I don't
I'd say
understand
that too.
it.
I would
But
say that
I don't
too.
understand it because I love to laugh. I love to cook. I love animals. I had 2 pot-bellied pigs. I mean, and, as soon as I got them in my town in Westchester, affluent suburban community in New York, right outside of the city, they passed an ordinance that no one could have farm animals. But I grew up as a kid in upstate New York. I worked in a dairy, and so I had my pot-bellied pigs that grew to 250 pounds, one of them for 15 years, and I would go out and feed them, and I would clean the pig house, and, I love animals, and I still work out. I have a lot of energy, and I'm not going anywhere unless God says it's time, and hopefully it isn't time yet.
Can you share a little story? We all of us were watching you when you had your interview on The View. And the altercation still pops up and virally, the altercation that you had on The View with Whoopi Goldberg. Can you share what happened there and how that actually went down?
I think it was the first political book I wrote, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals. And I had co-hosted that show many times. I had been a guest on that show many times. They were all friends of mine. Whoopi and I never agreed politically, but we'd laugh in the makeup room, and the same with Joy. But all of a sudden, I saw what America saw, and that is once you supported Donald Trump, you were hated. You were despised. They unfriended us. They didn't want to communicate with us. They didn't want us to speak. And as sure as I'm sitting here, JP, I'm telling you, free speech is going down the tubes if they have their way. But we started talking and went well for the first segment. I thought it was just one segment, and then I realized they said stay for another segment. I'm like, okay, and that's when it started. And she started and I started. You can go watch it on Google. And I didn't take their crap. And then she basically threw down her cards and walked off the set. And I just remember walking down the stairs and saying, Whoopi, don't tell me I don't care about victims. I think it was like, I'm not sure what the argument was, but I remember saying, don't ever tell me I don't care about victims. I've devoted my life to victims. I've devoted my life to making them whole again. So don't you dare. I mean, there's certain lines you don't cross with me. She said, get the F out of the building. Get the F out of this building. And I had my editor was with me and makeup was with me and hair. And they were like, and I said, what did you say? She said, you heard me, get the F out of this building. And I was thrown out of ABC. I didn't say one word. I said, everybody, let's go. And the next week, I made #1 on the New York Times. So I thought about sending her flowers, but I didn't think she was worth it.
Well, I know you as a courageous, confident, accomplished woman.
Thank you.
And understand you have a tight schedule here. What would you share with, again, people from the Midwest as we're looking at a very uncertain period of time right now? It's November and an election year with still a no concession, but one side has accepted. Mm-hmm. Share with the people in the Midwest how we should view what's happening right now.
Well, first of all, nothing is over until it's over. In a presidential race, the media does not call elections. And in this presidential race in particular, the media brought you Russia collusion for 4 years and ripped this country apart. There was not one shred of evidence, not one, nothing. And yet, this is a group of people who wanted us to believe that the president was racist and everything else and xenophobic. I'm telling you, it's not over till it's over. We need the states to certify. We need the electors to vote on December 14th. There are lawsuits pending all over this country. We'll see what happens. But I'm telling you that it's not over. It's just not.
Well, we really appreciate you coming to visit us.
It's fun being with you, JP.
I know the family and friends were happy to see you. And regardless of politics, some people might agree, some might not agree.
Right.
I believe we can all, as Americans, respect what you've accomplished and love you for your passion and love that you're here with us today.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just say one more thing to put you at ease and everyone else. If it's determined that Joe Biden has won, he is my president. And that's what America's all about.
Thank you. We'll end it with that. Thank you very much, Jeanine.
Okay.